Welcome to the Alpine Church of Spiritual Living this morning. Glad to have you with us. And know that as we are happy to have you here either in person or watching on YouTube or wherever it may be on our website, that we appreciate your consciousness and your involvement with our church. And if you are so inclined, you can push the donate button on our website, alpinechurchofspiritualliving.org, and show us your financial support as well. So I'm going to be reading the thought for the week, and those in the room, you can join me as I get down at the bottom in the bold area. Life, another term for God, the infinite source, oversoul, and so forth, is all in all, the Alpha and Omega. It includes everyone and everything from the beginning of time through eternity. This life is always seeking self-expression. That's why it created form and everything in the material world. This life is all-inclusive, meaning it accepts and embraces all. As we grow in our spiritual maturity, we too yearn to be inclusive. One of the first things we must learn to include and accept is our humanness. Meaning, even though we wish we were perfect, we all fall short. We fall short primarily to our ego wishes and desires. And as we grow in wisdom, we realize that's not a bad thing. Yes, at our core, we are whole and perfect and divine. Yet we go through a learning curve of accepting that even the divine embraces flaws. So you are, right now, learning, growing, and becoming your greatest yet to be. You are a unique and beautiful outlet of the divine, of life itself. Don't be afraid to do some self-examination. If you have missed the mark, in other words, sinned, and need to make amends, do so. Don't linger in self-denial or self-criticism, but get the lesson and move on. If you feel someone has harmed you or hurt you, turn the other cheek and know they were only coming from the best they could manage at the time, based on their conscious evolution. Forgive and release the past. It's healthier for you that way. Get to know what feeds your soul, what brings you joy at the core level of, and then give it away. Give, pressed down and flowing over from your fullness within. That's what life does all the time. Say with me, I know I am evolving and growing in my spiritual awareness and acceptance. My life and all life is the life of God, and I am happy and eager to express my fullness here and now, and it is so. So happy Sunday. Isn't this a great day? Yes. We are here to live life. How great is that? We are here to be life. How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel good? Overwhelmed? Scared? Capable? I guess it depends on the day. You're going to feel all those things at one point or another, aren't you? The next question is, do you know what life is? If we're to live it, what is it? In Ernest Holmes' book, This Thing Called Life, this month that we're studying this book, he uses the word life with synonymous with God. So let's say that opening line again. We are here to live God. We are here to be God. Now, how does that make you feel? Good? Scared? Capable? Incapable? Overwhelmed? Well, that's the truth of it. That's what we are here, because you know what? There's no other option. Because God is all there is. And so if God is all there is, that means that's what we are, each and every one of us. And as I'd written in the thought for the week, and we are all on this evolutionary process of learning and growing and exploring and revealing more of what we are. So our topic this morning is, you are an outlet of life. And recognize that as life, as God, whatever you want to call it, never duplicates itself. Everything is original. Everything is just in itself, whole, complete, and yet unique. So we and you are going to live your life of God as you are going to do it, not as anybody else, not expecting to try to live up to any other person's ideals, values, because we have our own to do. We have our own challenge and life to live that is unique. And it's going to change. It's going to grow, as I put in the thought that not every day is going to be the best day of our lives. We're going to have some challenges. We're going to perhaps miss the mark a time or two. But the most thing that we can do to help ourselves in this process of evolutionary growth is to become aware. To become aware of when we have slipped, when we have not quite done our best, and then not beat ourselves up over it. You know, not tell ourselves, oh man, I should have, if only, if I could have. We've already learned that lesson, right? We don't go there. We acknowledge that, yes, I'm on a growing level. My little 5-year-old granddaughter just started kindergarten. And they're all growing uniquely as themselves. The teacher, of course, I went to open house, and the teacher's just grand, but she's got 23 little kindergartners in her room. And she, I guess she's, I love it now, because not when my kids were little, but now they have all this technology. I mean, literally in the front of the room is the big screen, and, puts things up on the screen. And but she takes pictures a lot. And she sent a video, first day of school. All the kids are lined up, and of course my little Adeline is in the very center in the front. And it's a video, and they're just all shouting, "I love kindergarten! I love kindergarten!" And that's all. I mean, it was literally maybe 5 seconds long. It wasn't that long at all. But of course, my little Adeline, she's standing there in the very middle, and I don't know, you're not going to pick this up on the video, but she's got one foot in front of the other, so she's poised. No other kindergartner was standing there like her. She's like, So we're all going to be doing our own thing in our own unique way, and that's great. That's absolutely great. To acknowledge that we are growing and learning and becoming, because all those little kindergartners are going to be growing and learning and becoming, and they're not going to be putting themselves down for not doing it right the first time. And so let's remember that lesson as we grow up in our years of being on this earth plane, that we are here to evolve unto this infinite being that we are. So we're never going to stop growing and learning and becoming. And so learn, as Jesus had taught us, to judge with right judgment. To judge ourselves with the acceptance, and others with the acceptance that we are all doing the very best we can based on the consciousness level that we're at. In our vision statement, it says, spiritual growth is our overall goal as we put the spiritual truths taught here into practice in our everyday lives. That's why we come together, to remind ourselves, to beef ourselves up, to give ourselves that inoculation, that helpful reminder of what we are. And I'm just going to get to the meat of this whole thing, as my Uncle Joe would tell Aunt Doris all the time when she started her long story from way back at the beginning. He'd say, "Doris, just get to the meat of it." So I'm getting to the meat of it. I have other people tell me that too as well. I think I sometimes go into more detail than I need to. In any event, so here's the deal. There is one life, one presence, one power, one being that expresses itself through everything, through multiplicity. And that one power is peace, is joy, is love. All of these beautiful attributes that we try to figure out how to explain the inexplainable, the infinite. Those are just some of the little qualities that we can label on it, like Ernest Holmes calls it the thing itself. And the thing itself manifests itself through law. So there is the generating spiritual force, and the way things come into being, into our experience, is through law. Holmes writes, "Spirit is life itself, and law is the way it works. When we furnish the law with an idea, it creates the form of that idea. We must have faith in this law. We must abandon ourselves to it. The only limit the law has is working for us. It is that it must work through us. Life can only give us what we take. The taking is a thing of faith and understanding." So it's very, very important that when we think about the truth of our being, of our lives, of everyone's life, that it is this one power. That is my life. I had to accept that. And I know that it is good and very good. And I need to accept that I have to have that faith in it to know that it knows what to do. How many times have we gone through our lives in a quandary of some sort? Something has come up and we just don't know what to do, where to turn, how to act, what should I do? Indecision. And when we go within into the silence, into the strength of our hearts, into the quietness, there is a guiding light. There is a guiding voice, that still small voice that gives us direction when we ask and when we expect to have a beautiful, pristine, perfect answer. Sometimes it might push us. Oh my, imagine that. We might have to get out of our comfort zone. We might have to do something different. Again, this life is an evolutionary process, guys. Holmes says, the highest consciousness is not one of possession, but of being. The greater your consciousness of being, the more automatically will the law flow from this consciousness into the acquisition of the things you desire. So we need to remember that this is not separate from us, that we are being. We are a human being. We are not a human doing. We are being this God self in expression. In the other book club that we have, we've been reading Richard Rohr, and it's about the second half of life and how we are becoming elders. And I've always said, since I was little, I'm never going to grow old. Old is always 7 years older than me. And I may have told you this, but I said that in a talk several years ago, and Jean Tharp was sitting in the front row. And so I said, and I continued to tell the story, like my husband said, well, Gay, when you're 80, you're going to be old. And I said, no, when I'm 80, 87, I'll be old. And Jean Thorpe looked at me, she was in the front row, and she goes, oh, does that mean I'm old? I'm 87. I said, no, Jean, old is 7 years older than you are now. So I've never espoused to ever wanting to be old. Well, I had a friend dropping me off in her car the other day, and we had to pull up, and we were right in a driveway, and we were blocking the driveway. And so I'm opening the door, trying to get out, trying to gather up my stuff and everything that I had, and this car was waiting for me to get out of the way. And so I opened the door, and I kind of mumbled to myself, well, you'll just have to wait, because I'm old. And I immediately, changed that. I said, I'm not old, I'm an elder. So I'm getting out of the car in my right and perfect time. So we as elders, or whatever place that we are in life, are being exactly where we need to be, what we need to be doing. When we're open and receptive to trusting, to having that faith that I am being guided and directed through and by this light of love that is within me. It can't be separate from me. All I have to do is raise my hand and ask. And I will have that. I will have that knowledge, that fortitude to do what I need to do after I have recognized that I am a being. So we have to make friends with this presence. We have to acknowledge that it is within me. We have to also know that as evolving beings, we are going to do our best every day. And sometimes it won't be the best that we did the day before. If you're hungry, if you're tired, if all of these things are coming in on your physical being, you're not going to be at your best that you could be otherwise. And so just acknowledge that. Acknowledge that by taking care of your body, by getting enough rest, by eating the things that will support you. We are here to let and allow this God, this infinite life, to flow through us, uninhibited. And so we are here to speak our word, to say what it is that Spirit is guiding and directing us to experience in our lives. If we want more health, if we want friendships, if we want some sort of creative expression, then we are here to know that life is willing and eager and ready to support us in those things. And so we go into the silence, we go into the awareness, and we speak our word, knowing that it is the truth. We've done a lot of studies with Joel Goldsmith. And Joel Goldsmith, really tells us to go into the silence, to be able to contemplate. The contemplation is another word that Richard Rohr uses. Contemplate on certain spiritual passages so that we can elevate our consciousness, so that we can become more and more spiritually mature and allow the spiritual being that we are to come out and play in life. And it's not just about us, it's about everyone. One of the things that our Science of Mind teachings gives us is the fact that we say that we are going to treat. Treating is another word for affirmative prayer. And so we can treat for others. And we do that by knowing that there is no separation, that person is not an other. That person is the same as me. That person is whole, complete, and perfect, and is a beautiful, unique expression of the divine. And yes, if they're going through some glitch in their life, that they need to have some revealing of more health, that they need to have revealing of more wealth, of some sort of idea that we need to express in a bigger way, then I can know that for them. I can see that. I can proclaim and speak my word that this person is whole, that this person is experiencing whatever, their requirement is or their request is at that moment in time. I can know that for them because there's no difference in us. And what's the cool thing about it, I think, is that when we treat for someone else, when we are doing a prayer treatment, an affirmative treatment, we're really doing it for ourselves because we're just doing it within our own mind, with our own self, within our own being, because there is no separation. There's no differentiation. There is one power and life. And so when I speak that, whatever it is for that person, I'm speaking it for me. Eric Butterworth, who was the Unity minister, said, when we begin to treat people individually and in groups as spiritual beings, saluting the divinity within them, then we will give and receive and do business on the level of love and mutual trust. We will begin to expect far more of ourselves and of others. And we will treat people as if they already were what our faith reveals them to be. This life is built on relationship. God, Infinite Spirit, wanted to play with something. And that's why we're here, to relate to one another and to recognize and honor the best in us and the best in them. And the only way to do that is to know and start with yourself, that I am whole, complete, and perfect. As I wrote in the thought, life is always seeking self-expression. That's why it created form and everything in the material world. We are human beings, human and divine. And we are in this beautiful life for a joyful purpose, to give, to share, to give from this fullness that we are into life itself. So go out and have a glorious Sunday. Love you all. Namaste.